Welcome to the Self-Help Book Club podcast, where comedians read self-help books to see if they help. I'm your host, Kelly Bachman, and this week's book is The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. I found my copy on a sidewalk in Brooklyn, where I think all self-help books eventually end up. You can find yours probably anywhere. Millions of copies sold, translated into 33 languages. It's a book about mindfulness, spirituality, and what it means to be alive. I think I first heard about Power of Now from Oprah Winfrey's book club when I was a kid, and now I am hosting a book club myself so that I too can become a multi-billionaire mogul. It should be illegal to be that rich, and that's not what this book is about. According to Tolle, if we embrace the present moment, we unlock the transformative power of what he calls the now. That is peace, joy, clarity, and oneness with everything around you. Tolle invites the reader to be conscious of our thoughts and feelings about what he calls our life situation at any given moment. The life situation brings out, quote, the drama of your life. Drama is a kind of catch-all word that Tolle uses for either an argument you're having with your sister or cancer. Tolle talks a lot about people in terms of states of drama, but also consciousness and unconsciousness. He says that most humans are in a state of unconsciousness because our ego is at the wheel. Tolle writes that ego is the unobserved mind that runs your life when you are not present as the witnessing consciousness. Ego is there to help us survive, to manage our thoughts and behaviors, but surrender is a way to let go of the ego and find one's true self. Tolle also talks a lot about the pain field, the quote, energy field of old but still very much alive emotion that lives in almost every human being. He talks about the pain field of the individual and also the collective pain field of everyone on Earth. And that's pretty much everything you need to know about the book to understand today's episode. My first guest is Jaffer, hilarious and handsome comedian who has written for CBS and Comedy Central and is also my loving partner. You'll notice in our episode we are talking as if we are hosting this show together. That's because we were for one episode, and then I fired Jaffer so that he could go work on his podcast that he's really excited about. Jaffer's podcast is called Cops, and I hope you'll check it out. But first, our conversation. If you're watching the video on Patreon, you'll notice our cameras turned themselves off about 6 times, which really challenged me to stay in the now. Now, I'll end my self-help book report with a Tolle quote that I really liked. It's a nice visual analogy, and it goes like this. You are walking along a path at night, surrounded by a thick fog, but you have a powerful flashlight that cuts through the fog, creating a narrow, clear space in front of you. The fog is your life situation, which includes past and future. The flashlight is your conscious presence. The clear space is the now. And that's pretty much everything you need to know about the book. Oprah said it's good, and that means it's good. I clearly can't afford a cameraman. I clearly can't afford an audio guy.
So let me say this to start out. One of the reasons why we like this idea is because you, Kelly Bachman, are kind of a self-help book connoisseur. You've read a lot over your life. And I am like a curmudgeon. I have never read a self-help book. I kind of poo-poo them. That's kind of my personality. And so going into this, I will say this is our first episode. And within the first 2 pages of The Power of Now, I was like, this has changed my life now.
Aww.
Forever, my life will have 2 parts.
Yeah.
Pre and post Eckhart Tolle.
Well, yeah. Well, second of all,
The book is amazing. Oh my God.
It
What
is
the
good.
fuck?
Well,
Why
it's
am I just
funny
reading this
'cause
now? I could have read this years ago.
Jaffer has been reading this book for like a month and hasn't
Okay.
told.
Yes, yes.
Well,
It took me longer to read it than
no, that's
Kelly.
not why I'm bringing that up. I'm saying that for the last month, Jaffer, every time he's reading the book, I try to talk to him about it, and he's like, "No, we gotta save it for the podcast. We gotta
Yeah.
save it." He won't let me have a conversation with him about it. So
Yeah.
it should be like a big reveal right now that I find out that you love the book, but actually I can hear Jaffer through the walls because we live together.
We live
So
together. We're engaged romantically.
oh, engaged.
We're not engaged. Delete that. Delete that. We're engaged romantically.
Right, right. So I heard through the wall, Jaffer recommending the book to like all of his
All my
bros on the
friends,
phone.
all my bros back in Houston.
He's like, "Bro, you gotta read this book,
Bro, my
You
life is
gotta
different
read this
now.
book."
My life is different now. And it is forever. And yeah, I could have been at peace before and I wasn't. Now I know how to potentially be at peace. It makes sense. So let's start going through this, right?
Well,
So
yeah, I do want to say I love that you love the book, and I love that about you. You know, Jaffer's a person that kind of on the surface he's very stubborn,
no one cares. No
opinionated,
one cares about how much you
but
love me, okay? This is a podcast about
but he's
books.
actually very capable of growth. He's always evolving and learning and sharing what he learns, and I really appreciate that about you.
Anyways, the premise of the book, I would say, The Power of Now. Obviously, it's about being present. And the first thing he kind of talks about in the book is your relationship with your own thoughts. And this was revolutionary to me because I have always identified with my thoughts. I've been a fan of my thoughts. I really even to the point where my inner monologue has never stopped. To the point where I have insomnia, and even my insomnia, I was like, well, the other side of this terrible coin is that at least me being up all night thinking really has helped me chisel out a lot of who I am and what I believe. And this book is telling me the opposite, and I immediately understood what he was saying, that I've been tormented by my thoughts my whole life. Anytime you're thinking, you are not present. You could just be present. You could just be in the moment. Not to say never think. Think when you need to think about something. You got to think sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Not all the damn time though.
For those of you who haven't read the book, what Jaffer is talking about is in the first couple pages of the book, the author, Eckhart Tolle, is talking about when he had his epiphany. And Eckhart Tolle, for all intents and purposes, is just kind of like a guy. Like
German
he's
guy.
a German guy. He kind of looks like the Keebler elf.
He does.
And
That whole vibe really did a lot for me. The whole time I'm reading it, I'm like, I can't believe I'm reading this guy.
But yeah, he's just a guy, and he used to have extreme depression and insomnia, and he describes that he couldn't live with himself, and then he realized that his self was mind made. So once he became aware of the self, it faded away. And he says, the next morning I woke up and everything was so peaceful. The peace was there because there was no self, just a sense of presence or beingness, just observing and watching. And that's what he invites the reader to do, is to be the watcher of yourself and to notice when you're becoming, he calls it being unconscious, to be conscious of yourself, of your ego. If your ego is at the wheel, to be mindful of that and to notice your mind and body in every moment.
Mm-hmm.
Self-help book club. Many days while we're reading the book that he was going. Hold on, I feel like I'm not being in the now.
Okay. I'm in the now. Be in the now.
Well,
be with me.
okay.
Join me. I'm waiting. Hello.
Okay, here's what happened. We just did the whole summary and we had to do all these different takes and we had to set up the cameras and we were kind of getting frustrated and we
I
were
wasn't
like,
frustrated. That was you.
so
I was
sorry.
totally fine. I'm now.
We were both getting frustrated and I feel like we literally were reading all these peaceful sentences and then in between takes being like, fuck, we gotta fix that. And
That's just called doing takes. It's not
I know, but
frustrating.
I'm
It's just,
saying now I'm trying to come clean and say that I feel like for a minute I was out of the now. Now I'm trying to get back in and I'm trying to listen to what you just said, which is that you loved the book and that you were surprised how much it connected with you.
I mean, you don't even really have to be in the now to have a conversation. We can still just keep talking without stopping the whole conversation. Like, stop this. I'm not now. I'm not now. Alarm go off, please. We have to fix this.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't have to say that.
Yeah. I did enjoy the book, and I think it's a new journey for me to be more present and mentally well. This will help me. I remember I was first reading the book, just the first few pages, and I decided to give it a whirl. So I put down the book for a second and I tried to be present. And I thought about the way he describes, like, what is basically, he's like, what is going on in your life right now? It's probably pretty pleasant. He doesn't say it in those words. That's kind of my takeaway from it, because like I did that. I am constantly bogged down with all sorts of things. And the point of the book is not that those things are irrelevant. I'm bogged down by a lot of things that are relevant in, as he would say, my life situation, but they're not necessarily relevant in like every moment of your life, which is how most of us are living. So I put down the book and I was like, all right, let me be present in the damn now, like he's talking about. And what's going on? Okay, I'm in, obviously I'm on Earth, but I'm in Brooklyn and I'm in this building. I'm on the third floor. I'm laying down on a bed. That's nice. It's comfy. The temperature in the room is nice. It's a little cool, but I got my little blanket. And outside, it's like sunset time. It's kind of a calm Brooklyn day. We live in kind of a residential block. And oh, lying down right next to me is our dog, Gracie, who's right over there lying down, who I love very much. And she's lying down next to me, cuddling because she loves me. And this is actually a really nice moment. And then it dawned on me, like, most of my life is a collection of just moments like that or better. And that moment, then like my life, it was something switched in my life. Like, oh, I could be living my life this way. What the fuck? I've wasted my life thinking thoughts
You feel like
constantly.
so it sounds like you were really excited by the book, but maybe also you were looking back like did you feel like you wished you had known sooner or were you more in the
No, because
you
like
were in the
power,
now?
exactly, like Power Now says, like whatever, like it is what it is, No
Yeah.
point, is the past is the past.
Yeah.
Now is now. Now I'm gonna be now.
Yeah. So how did you apply that to your life after that? Like what's been going on these last couple weeks?
It's not like what I like about it is that it presents like it's very practical, it's very reasonable. So it's not like some antidote. It's like, here's the thing you can work on.
Yeah.
And it's like a lifelong thing. And so I've started just being aware of this. And so, yeah, just throughout the day, I'll remember to be present. It's like that. I'll literally remember, like, oh, yeah, presence.
Right.
And I'll try to, I like the phrase he uses, access the now. So I'll try to do that, whether or not I'm like at a show, at a bar, or like, I had a funny moment the other day in the shower, because I like to think in the shower, and I was like, "Oh, I should be present in the shower," and I was for a little moment, and then I was like, no, I like thinking in the shower. Shower is like my thought place, so why don't I just do these thoughts, and then I'll be present in some point in the shower also. But I like shower as a thought mind place, so I continue to
Yeah.
figure my shit out. Like I'll write bits and stuff in the shower. So I kept doing that. But
Well,
it made me aware of like a time and place for your mind, and then the rest of it, just try to be now.
Mm-hmm. Tolle has a good thought about that in terms of how to use the now when you're uh, thinking creatively. I know you're coming up with bits in the shower and all that. He talks about in the creative process taking a few moments to access the now, to find that peace, and then returning to your thoughts. And I think what's special to me about that is, Jaffer could be, I would say, kind of a stereotypical boyfriend in that he doesn't necessarily like to receive advice about mental health.
That could have gone a lot of ways. Stereotypical boyfriend coming from this feminist comedian, Kelly Bachman.
Yes,
That's not so bad. Yeah, that is
raging feminist.
yes, raging feminist. But yeah, that's not so bad, and that is, I will agree with that. Yes.
Yes. So he's not always, wanting to hear mental health advice. If I'm to reference a book, he's not necessarily going to take it. His mom has been recommending he read this book for about, I don't know how many years,
10 years.
And when I told her I found the book, she's like, "Oh, Kelly, you got to get him to read it. You got to get him to read it." And I was like, I don't have
I
this
was
kind
like,
of power.
fucking mom, get out of my life. Stop. Stop telling Kelly to do your bidding.
But then I found a loophole, which is offering to start a podcast.
Yeah, I knew this was all a charade.
Now I'm like, oh, isn't it hilarious? Let's make fun of the book. Isn't it hilarious how this book tells you to practice mindfulness when you're having anxiety?
Don't ever do a podcast with your girlfriend, bros. It's a trap. They're trying to trick you to becoming healthier, and it's not right.
And I can't wait to introduce our first guest on the podcast, a licensed therapist who you can talk to about, whatever.
I'm just gonna leave the room.
Yeah, I'm just gonna leave.
I'm gonna leave this.
It. Self-help book club.
Well, since we're criticizing, I do like the pain body chunks was parts that kind of, we could say, cringe, whatever. Like I'll say that. Like let me read a little part. The pain body consists, and okay, let's define pain body. Basically, he uses the term pain body to describe sort of the things that have happened in our life that we didn't like, that we carry with us unnecessarily, because again, it is just the past. It is not this moment. It is irrelevant, and we are creating that pain with our mind. But then he'll say stuff like this, quote, "The pain body consists of trapped life energy that has split off from your total energy field and has temporarily become autonomous through the unnatural process of identification." Now, with little lines like that throughout the book, I'm like, damn, like I'm really noticing how this book has got no references. You know how in like most nonfiction books, when they like say a statement of fact, there will be like a little number in brackets that you can go back into the back of the book and look up where they are getting this information from. Like this book has none of that. It has a bunch of loony things that he like makes broad statements about, and like so this has always been sort of my hesitance and criticism of all this self-help kind of stuff. Here it says, "The pain body, which is the dark shadow cast by the ego, is actually afraid of the light of your consciousness." It is afraid. Like the way he personifies it as in this way is a little cartoony to me. It's a little goofy, but I wouldn't mind it so much if he was a little bit scientific with it. Then I could be like, oh, okay, he's just speaking metaphorical in this passage, but what he's actually referring to is this. But he never really provides that. And like I'll go to my mom. Like the reason why with my mom I was hesitant with her recommending me this is because of this like disconnect we've had over our whole lives, where I am someone who gets worked up and mad about things in the world that are out of my control, specifically like politics, what's going on in the world. And while it is true that there's no reason for those things to make me unhappy in my own life, um, it really rubbed me the wrong way, the way my mom, my whole life, even before the power of now, would dismiss all this and just be like, Jaffer, none of that matters. So just don't even think about it. Just completely forget about it. Just
Mhm.
focus on you. And so when my mom discovered all this self-help stuff, I was just hearing the same thing she always said. And to just none of that matters, only focus on you. And that is my a big issue I have with this book is the level of individualism
Mhm.
that it is like, and it's so the broad brushstrokes here are where it most bothers me, because he goes so far as to say that, oh, if more people were just focused on, looked inwards and focused on them, on their present and away from their mind, then there would be no war, there would be no genocide,
Yeah.
illness. What it's like, all right, bro, fucking relax, dude. Like, um it's
Yeah, there's definitely a way to read it that encourages us to accept life as it is rather than community building, problem solving, etc. Like if I'm in a bad situation, I could
mhm.
change my state of mind and that will fix it. And therefore, I can assume that option is available to everyone. Like everyone can be fixing their own life in this way of thinking. And I can imagine that somewhere there's a billionaire like sitting in their mansion thinking that they understand the power of now and
Mhm.
that why would they worry about solving climate change? Because that's in tomorrow.
Yeah,
And right
and those
now,
are the main
on the
motherfuckers.
bed with Gracie is where we all belong.
Exactly. Those are the main motherfuckers reading this shit. Is these rich tech CEOs going on their ayahuasca trips in the Amazon? It's like, yeah, dude. Like, it is. What is that guy's name? Fucking Laszlo. Laszlo's hierarchy of
Oh,
needs,
Laszlo.
right? And at the very tippy top is this shit, power of now, self actualization, right? That is the tippy top of the pyramid. So all this self help world shit, like this book included, they focus on that tippy top and then acts like they have just covered everything. Oh, you really think you can fix Palestine with this shit, bro? You really think you can get Israel to rid of their own hierarchical apartheid structure if they all read Power of Now? No, bro, fucking get over that shit. This the individualism rampant and all this shit really rubs me the wrong way. And I guess he has to sell his book or whatever, so he has to like speak in these broad terms. But yes, that is one criticism. And I'll go back to the original criticism. I kind of went on a ravey rant, you could call it, in this moment. But the other thing is like the my other issue was the lack of science in it. Like the way, for example, when he makes these really bold claims about illness and whatnot. Um, here we go. Thoughts and feelings you have about your life then become deeply negative and self destructive. Illnesses and accidents are often created this way. And he talks about the immune system later on. And I understand where you could make this sort of argument, but I would like for him to actually delve into that. Like, I have somewhat of an understanding about how like stress can damage your immune system and then can make you more susceptible to diseases. But he doesn't go into any of that. He just makes these broad claims, and then you have people, other sorts of people, who will take what he's saying here in a very literal sense that, oh, if you just do this sort of mindful stuff, then illnesses will go away, which you could extrapolate from what he's saying because he is not including any science whatsoever. And you have all these kooky gurus out there who take what he's saying a step further and are selling people these philosophies instead of medicine. And I feel that if this Eckhart Tolle guy, Eckhart Tolle, I could just say that, would take the time to add us a couple references to really describe what he's saying in some scientific terms, then other people, other self-help people, wouldn't be able to take all this stuff and use it to sell people snake oils instead of medicine. Does that make sense, what I just said?
Yeah,
Good.
it does. I think he definitely is kind of assuming that the reader knows a lot, and he's not writing it in a scientific way. He writes the book. We haven't discussed this yet, but the whole book is kind of written as like a frequently asked questions page. It's
Mhm.
all like a Q&A, and that was one of my kind of confusions reading the book, is that I felt like he was assuming that I had all these questions that I did not have. Like, it would be written as if it's from my perspective. Like, an example is, randomly it says in the quotes where it would be a question for me. According to Einstein, space and time are not separate. I don't really understand it, but I think he's saying that time is the fourth dimension of space. He calls it the space time continuum. And then Tolle answers the question and he says, yes, what you perceive externally as space and time are ultimately illusory, but they contain a core of truth.
And you read that and you were like, I do understand Einstein. That is not me asking that
Well, I
dumbass
just like,
question.
I wasn't thinking about that.
Don't put those words in my mouth, Eckhart.
I wasn't thinking about that at all.
I understand E equals MC
But then
squared.
he answers and he says, these are the two essential
He
attributes.
goes, listen, dumbass.
But he takes it really to a level that I'm not expecting, where he says it very matter of fact, like, that is what God is, you know? And I think I would have liked like a little bit of a, if he's going to present some of these kind of questions that are basically like, what is the meaning of life?
Mm-hmm.
To answer, first say, no one knows. But
Mm-hmm.
what I think is that maybe, and then say whatever he says,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of the spiel is like really helpful, but it's said in such a way that is law.
Yeah, I think it's in his best interest to keep certain things vague. I think he could sell more books that way, and I don't like that. But I will say real quick, the little FAQ back and forth. I like that. I is
You did have those questions. You were like,
what is light and energy? I literally don't get it. Oh, he took the words right out of my mouth. I was about to bring up Einstein in that exact moment of this book. No, it's very like, what's the Greek guy from the past? Socrates, like all those things, you know, like dialogue, dialectic. I like all that type of stuff, but yeah, so it was funny him going throughout the book, and I know what you're thinking, and
well, and then he proceeds to tell you like what happens when you die.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no one knows. But
Yeah.
he says very specifically, he talks about uh, the portal of death, the death of the false self,
Mm-hmm.
blissful serenity. When you go through it, you cease to derive your identity from psychological mind made form. You then realize that death is an illusion, just as your identification with form was an illusion. The end of illusion, that's all that death is. It is only painful. It is painful only as long as you cling to illusion.
Mm-hmm.
So he's saying that when you die, you let go of your ego, but your goal should be to die before you die.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of had a problem with that because I was like, um, you're saying ego is connected to our relationships and our all of the people we know in life. When we die, we become one. No, actually, I
met my soulmate. And when I die, we're going to be floating around together and hanging out.
No, we're not. We're all going to be one with the entire universe, and we won't be separate anymore.
Like,
we'll just be one. So.
Why can't I believe, like, oh, maybe we're going to go a place and be hanging out with everybody we love and we'll still be ourselves?
I'm not going. I'm not going
to. Just as likely be possible as what he's saying.
No, I'm gonna be poly when I die. I'm gonna be one with everything
You
and
are
everyone.
not.
In this life, I'm not. In this life, I'm committed or whatever. But in the afterlife,
If you
I'm
die,
one with all.
if you die before me, you better be waiting, hanging out, haunting me. I'll be doing my tarot.
I'll be here in the sense that I'll be one with
I'm going to be
but
texting you with tarot, and you're going to be answering.
I'm not going to be responding to texts when I'm dead. I'll be too busy being one.
I'll
with,
be doing a seance, and
I
you'll be
will.
talking to me, and then we'll be reunited once I'm ready to go,
Yeah,
or vice versa.
I'm gonna miss those seance
If
calls.
I die first, I will haunt you.
No, you won't. You'll be. We'll be one. You know. I'll be one with you, but yeah, I'll be one with that plant. I'll be one with Gracie. I'll be one with that Jesus candle.
Well, he actually says that when you die, you still are yourself. You just release, like your ego part of yourself. So basically, only the good parts of yourself.
I think, like, for both of us, we have to, and he tells us, it does say that this is a spiritual book. He says a guide to spiritual enlightenment. He's a spiritual guide. So I think, like, I was surprised at the practical aspects of a lot of this book that is literally life-changing for me. And I loved all those parts of it. But then he will go into like spiritual type stuff, which I'm not a fan of.
I like that part, but
you were just describing about how you did the like the death type stuff.
I like it. I guess what I'm saying is, I just wish he would add a caveat of like, I think that's my problem with religious people as well. It's like, if we could just add a caveat that we don't know, and then we're all trying to figure it out, that would help me.
Yeah.
But
no one would buy his book then. He another the way he uses the word energy. This has been me and my mom fight about this all the time. Like, spiritual people, they will conflate physical energy with vibes, right? And they'll be like, this energy, that energy, you gotta open up your energy. And it's like, that's not real what you're saying. They're like, no, Einstein talks about this. And it's like, no, he fucking didn't. Okay. He was talking about physics. Matter is energy. When you light a stick on fire, it goes from material to fire energy and dissipates into the air. That is not the same as just talking about vibes. But
when you're sitting in, like the situation you described where you had those moments,
and I'm furious,
and you had a moment of transformation, there's something happening there as well. I think people are making the connection. Like earlier, during your
ranty rave,
you were talking about how he talks about the evils of the world, as kind of a mass unconsciousness, which I also think he's like reaching in some of the ways he's talking about it. But
he is tapping. I'll give him that. He's tapping on something.
But he's saying that you can and should alleviate the symptoms of the world problems. But he's saying the cause is the unconsciousness. So without a profound change in human consciousness,
the causes are economic structure. All right, I'll write my own self-help book for Eckhart Tolle.
Yes, but what is the root of that? I think would be his response to that.
Greed. Then we're gonna be fist fighting.
Well, he would say,
I'll agree with greed.
I agree. He oversimplifies these things, but I'm looking for one quote he says about it. I think this is on like page 203. I don't know why. That's the first time I said a page number the whole time. He says, if you feel called upon to alleviate suffering in the world, that is a very noble thing to do. But remember not to focus exclusively on the outer. Otherwise, you will encounter frustration and despair. Without a profound change in human consciousness, the world's suffering is a bottomless pit, blah, blah, blah.
I'm rolling my eyes
So
right now.
he goes on to basically say,
Blah, blah, blah.
quoting Jesus, he quotes Jesus a lot in the book.
A lot.
He says,
A
love
lot of Old Testament, a lot of New Testament, no Final Testament.
Well, he says, love your enemies, quoting Jesus. And then he says, this, of course, means have no enemies. Once you get involved in working on the level of effect, it is all too easy to lose yourself in it. Stay alert and be very present. The causal level needs to remain your primary focus, the teaching of enlightenment, your purpose and peace, your most precious gift to the world. I was thinking about that because I was literally reading this book the same time I was reading like Communist Manifesto and what else? Wretched of the Earth and Manufacturing Consent. And all of these books use the term consciousness as well. And they're talking about the working class becoming conscious, the colonized becoming conscious, the collective consciousness of realizing that you need to overthrow the oppressor. And then you have Tolle talking about consciousness. He's
In a
talking
dumb
about
way. That's not the same as the
He's-
smart people that you listed.
he's talking about inner consciousness. And I read another book by Gabor Mate who kind of links these two things together. He references Tolle. He also references Chomsky.
Crazy.
And we'll get to that book eventually. But he talks about linking the two, doing that work. The societal blocks are causing a lot of the dysfunction, are blocking our connection to ourselves. And we do need to do that work to make society
Better.
better. I take it all with a grain of salt, but I try to link the two things in my mind, even if that's not what he had in mind, because I do want to do the work of protesting and learning more about the sources of a lot of our problems in the world. And I don't want to be this self-interested, only helping the self. The kind of, even the word self-help itself is kind of like,
I'll say
basically.
this. You know, I went from an Eckhart Tolle lover to a hater in this podcast, and I contain multitudes, but I will say on the energy thing, I've never been able to meditate, so I don't know. Maybe once I finally am able to meditate, I'll have like energy fields shooting out of my ass, and I'll be like, all right, this energy nonsense is real.
Well, I'm very proud of you because you have not wanted to read this book for a long time, and you're kind of,
As long as I can remember.
and you also don't like to talk about mental health, and
I got it all I need. It's in the freezer right over there.
And he's been getting
We got the
whole
truly
beer on a Friday night.
We got the truly unrulies on the bottom shelf. That's all I need.
Well, his mom has been suggesting this book forever. I've been suggesting, lots of things for a while. And I found this loophole through suggesting we start a podcast.
Got your Brooklyn comedian boyfriend to read a self-help book.
And I recommend it to all of the girlfriends at home going through this issue.
I recommend this book. Like if like listening to us talk about this will not give you what's in this book. You know what I mean? Like if you think this is interesting, then I recommend you read it because you are not getting what is in here through this conversation. You really gotta. He's a good writer. He does do a good job of explaining these.
Yeah, you could probably pretend to have read the book from what we said. You could go give someone unsolicited advice. You could reference terms from the book. I don't blame you if you do that.
Yeah, I say read The Power Now.
Yeah, it's recommended by Oprah. It's recommended by moms. It's probably on your sidewalk in Bushwick right now if you live there. I feel like I wasn't really mindful in this whole conversation. I was literally reading I wrote so many notes in my iPad and I was trying to get to them all. I didn't get to them all, but I was thinking literally as I just put the iPod down, I could have been down the whole time. And maybe I would have been a little more present. Maybe I would have looked into your beautiful eyes a little more.
Well, there's always next episode. Join us next time. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Please subscribe to my Patreon. Please subscribe to my Patreon, and maybe one day I'll hire someone to write a song. Self-help book club. Self-help book club. Self-help book club. Self-help book club.